Hey everybody, Mark Bates here. Today I want to do a quick overview of what is new in Buffalo 090. So let's get started. Some of the coolest stuff, or at least some of the more interesting stuff, actually happens when you generate a new Buffalo application. So you can see here I've done Buffalo new -- help, and there's a couple things I want to quickly talk about in here, and we're going to actually start from the bottom up. On this. The first one is Golang /dep, which is a dependency manager that's kind of coming out of the Go team here. It's been stabilized with its file formats and such, so we have added it to Buffalo support here. So when you generate a new Buffalo application, it's going to run dep and vendor your dependencies and all that sort of stuff. Should you not want to use dep, so maybe you want to use Glide or some other dependency manager, you absolutely can. Just do --skip -dep, and it won't do any of that. But it's nice to know that it's there, and we've made sure that everything works well with vendoring as best we can, obviously. So that is the dep feature. So we now version your dependencies when you create a new application. The next one is Docker. This is kind of cool. So by default, we will now generate a Docker file with your new application, along with a .docker_ignore file. The default here is actually a multi-stage build, which came with Docker 17.05, I believe. Should you not have access to that, you can just set Docker to standard, and that will generate a normal Docker file, not a multi-stage build. Those images will be a lot bigger. Multi-stage is about 25 meg, and standard is about a gig. So, choose wisely. Or if you don't want to use Docker at all, you can select none. So that is also an option. And then finally, the last new feature when generating a new application is the -- API flag. And a lot of people have asked for this, and now we finally have it, which is very exciting. The API flag, when set, will generate a brand new Buffalo application devoid of any front-end assets at all. So no Webpack. There was always the option to skip Webpack. This obviously is equivalent to that plus some stuff. So with the API flag, there is no templates folder. None of the very basic rendering engine is set up. No assets folder whatsoever. No public folder. And we even set the default content type to JSON. So pretty kind of bare bones, really meant for a JSON application. So let's generate a new application here, Buffalo new, and we'll give it the API flag, and we'll call it Coke. So you can see here, Buffalo 090. It's going to install, make sure we have some external dependencies like Go imports and dep there. And let's see here. It's generating a bunch of stuff here. It is caching all of our application stuff for us. And if we go into Coke, we should see that there are no templates now. There are no assets, no public folder. If we look at the Docker file that's generated, for example, there's nothing in here about npm install, nothing in here about package JSON or anything like that. And if we look at actions render.go, you see it's very basic rendering options here. It's literally just kind of a raw render engine. And if we look at actions app.go, we can see that we are going to set the content type to application JSON for you automatically. Obviously, you can change that and do that as you will, but there's nothing else in here about any of the rendering stuff. So that's the API flag right there in a nutshell. Another really big new feature in Buffalo is background workers. This is pretty cool. So if we open up our home handler here, I'm going to get access to the worker from the app. By default, the background workers are set up to just use basic Go routines, so nothing super fancy there. But it is a good kind of starting point to make sure that everything kind of works and is useful. But before I do that, I'm actually going to throw that up there. And we can register a new handler, which is a function that takes worker arguments and returns an error. So one of the things I'll have it do is just print off the arguments here. And we'll just return nil. So this is now a function that I can call. So inside my home handler here, I can now, again, get access to that worker. So there we go. And I can say perform a worker job, and that takes a queue, which say something like default. It takes arguments. So, which is worker.args. Oops, if I can spell args, there we go. And we'll kind of give it maybe a user ID here of 1234, right? And the name of Buffalo. Now, I always recommend using simple types here, because if these things get serialized across Redis or what have you, you want to use very basic stuff. And then finally, the handler that we're going to use, which is going to be the hello handler that we registered. So if I now go to localhost 3000, I get a welcome to Buffalo message. And if I look back at my logs, there we go. You can see my arguments printed off from my worker there. And of course, there's a couple different ways we can do it. We can do perform in, perform at, or perform. So here I will do 3 seconds. So perform this in 3 seconds. So if I go back and hit the home page, if we wait, there we go. We can see the arguments get printed out. So that's pretty cool. There's a lot of great documentation on gobuffalo.io about the workers. A lot of great, and some stuff in the blog as well. We can change out our workers here, which I will do. I'm just going to copy and paste a little code because I can't remember it off the top of my head. There we go. So that we can use a Redis-backed worker. And that is using these two imports here. Whoops. dword. Okay, so that's all set up here. And this is an implementation of the GoCraft work background working system. Really great little package. And all we've done is wrapped it to work with the Buffalo Worker API. So this is actually going to use Redis to persist. And I have Redis going over here. So if we start our app, and now we go to localhost 3000 again, and if we wait 3 seconds, there we go. We could see our stuff printed out. Now I've started a second application at 3001, so I can hit either 3000 or 3001 here, and we'll see one of these two will pick up. There we go. Looks like the 3001 picked up most of the stuff there. We can just change that one last time. So we'll include the host. So request host. Here we go. And let's just make sure both of our applications are restarted, and they are. So if I go to 3001 a bunch, and I go to 3000 a bunch, here we go. We can see this one's picking up some 3001s, some 3000s. This one hasn't really picked up any, but that's fine. But you can see that they're both talking to the Redis database, and the jobs are working as we expected. So that's a really cool new feature in 090. That's really all we've got time for today. I just want to do a very quick overview of some of the big stuff, particularly the background job API, the Docker file generation, the vendoring stuff, the API flags. There's a lot more. There's better UI for the error pages. There's a great static flag for building binaries that passes some great link mode, external flags, and static flags when you're running Go build for Buffalo build. Really great for especially CGO. There's a Buffalo destroy subcommand, which is the opposite of Buffalo generate. The Buffalo response type is now exported, so you can use it, and particularly you get access to the status of a response. There's new app start and stop methods. These are pretty cool. Buffalo apps now have a context inside them that you can use. That is kind of an application context, not to be confused with the context for requests. So you can listen to that context for when Buffalo is getting shut down, and use that to gracefully shut down other services. Like, for example, the background job stuff automatically kind of listens to that, and will get shut down correctly when Buffalo gets shut down. There's a new basic auth middleware for HTTP basic authentication. All good stuff there. There is Buffalo now requires a minimum of 181 of Go 181, and there are lots of reasons for that. But a lot of it has to do with starting and stopping stuff to make sure we're shutting down servers in a really nice way. A couple of deprecated methods on the context have been removed. And finally, we've changed the form binding package under the covers from schema to formam, which is a great package that we really like a lot. We've also moved binding into its own package, the binding package. So a lot of great information there. Check that out. Check out the docs on the binding stuff as well. So that is really it. That's a quick overview of Buffalo 090. I will be doing a Buffalo course, a workshop at GopherCon in just a few weeks, actually. So if you're going to GopherCon, I highly recommend you sign up for the workshop. It's going to be pretty awesome. We're going to cover a lot of really, really great stuff. And that is it for now. I hope you enjoy this, and I hope this helped.